Welcome, everyone. My name is Shayantani Ghosh, and I represent the Work That Reconnects network. And thank you so much for joining us today for our program. It is the intention of the Webinars and Conversation Cafe program to strengthen the web of our Work That Reconnects community while reaching beyond its current edges to weave much deeper connections with everybody who's contributing to the great turning in diverse and complementary ways. Today, we will be stepping into a wonderful ritual called the Council of All Beings, which will be guided by Frieda Nixdorf and Kathleen Root, will be guiding us through a rich exploration of all the skills and the understanding that is necessary to facilitate an effective and meaningful council of all beings. Kathleen and Frieda are both experienced Work That Reconnects facilitators, mentors, and weavers for the Work That Reconnects network. Kathleen is a shamanic practitioner and an author, and Frieda is a psychologist and a soul embodiment guide. And now I am so happy and delighted to hand it over to Kathleen and Frieda.
And welcome everyone to this. This is the third in a three-part series on effective rituals in WTR spaces. And so grateful that you can all be joining us here today for the Council of All Beings. This is a teaching webinar. The focus here is on helping you to understand and learn the different aspects of ritual in general, the specific aspects of offering the Council of All Beings, in an effective, creative way. So we are going to be spending a good part of our time teaching and doing some guiding. The ritual itself, which we will experience in the second part of our time together, is a truncated version of what any of us would be offering. So we're going to go through the ritual. It's going to be much shorter than we would normally do, offering this in a workshop or as a standalone piece. So just so you're aware that we're going to get a taste of the ritual, maybe not that full, rich, deep experience that we would if we had more time to spend in the actual ritual itself. So we will have time in the beginning, as we said, for teaching. We are going to take a 5-minute break, so then we can step into the being that was as called to speak through us. We'll experience the ritual, and then we will have about a half-hour time for questions, for debrief. So we do ask that if you have any questions, to please hold them to the end if at all possible. We have a lot of material to get through, but we'll have plenty of time at the end for any kind of Q&A. We would like to get a sense of your experience, both with this ritual as a participant and as a facilitator. So we're going to ask if you would now just take a minute to answer this poll for us, wanting to know if you've experienced the council, in what way have you facilitated the council, if you participated in either of the other two effective rituals in WTR space webinars. So over 50% of you have not experienced this ritual before. Most of you have not facilitated this before. Okay, or participated in the other rituals. Great. All right, thank you. This is helpful for us. We would like to invite you to rename yourself, to give us information. So if you have experienced the work, if you've experienced the council, to put a 2 in front of your name. If you've facilitated the council, put a 1 in front of your name. And if you don't want to be recorded during the ritual, put an X in front of your name. And again, to rename yourself, hover over your video, blue box in the upper right-hand corner, click on that, and it should give you an opportunity to rename yourself. And we'll need this skill when we go into the ritual as well. So even if you don't need to rename yourself at the moment, please familiarize yourself with that. Okay, good. And this will help us to be able to evenly distribute people who've experienced it, facilitated it in both groups. Okay, great, thank you. So now Frieda is going to ground us, and so we can all come together, as a group in this webinar.
So let's just take a few minutes to start to settle in, to drop our awareness into our breath, into our body, into our sit bones and our hips, and that connection between our hands and whatever they're resting on. Our feet touching Gaia, the earth, this beautiful planet that we get to call home. And see if you can drop down into the embrace of the earth. The ground supporting the building you're in, the soil and microbes and roots, and pockets of air, underground waterways. And notice how all of that supports each of us in being here and alive today. And bring your awareness back up into your body. Notice the feel of our spine as it lengthens up our neck and the crown of our head. Feel the air that surrounds your being inside this building, surrounding this building. Notice the trees and plants and how they're supporting us, providing oxygen, nutrients for our bodies. Feel the presence of the stars, of our sun, how they light the way and support our life and all life on this planet. And drawing that light down into your heart and into this space. Carrying that light with you wherever you are. Just gently opening your eyes and taking a look around at those who've gathered with us today.
I'm going to now just talk briefly about the general steps that we have in ritual, so that we can have a foundation for our work today. So in any ritual, we are taking people into a different reality, a transformative experience from who they are before they come into the ritual till after they leave. And so in order to facilitate this magical transformative experience, we need to be aware of the different pieces of a ritual. So first, we need to understand what is the intention and the context of the ritual. What are we inviting people into? What is the change? What is the experience that we wish them to have? And to be able to give them some kind of grounding or context for that ritual. And we're going to do that in a moment with the Council of All Beings. So once people understand where we're going, why we're, what the overall experience is going to be, we want to make sure that they understand all of the steps of the ritual, all of the how-to, the nitty-gritty, so that they can be able to step into the ritual knowing what's going to be expected of them, how they are to interact and respond, whether it's in person or online. We want to have all of that done before the actual ritual opens, because then we're going to move into that ritual space. So there's an induction, a way that we begin the ritual that calls people into the space and that allows us to assume our roles in that ritual. Then there is the ritual itself. And what's important in a ritual is that as a facilitator, that we are participating in it, in the ritual, but we're also being able to hold the container so that our agreements and our instructions and our intentions are maintained throughout the ritual. And that allows people to really deepen into the experience when we know that they're being held in that container. When it's time then to end the ritual, you want to have a similar way of moving out of that ritual space. And so there is a definite ending to the ritual and a transition out of the ritual. So once the ritual is closed, then you always want to be able to create time for reflection and transition out of that ceremonial ritual space. And in the Council of All Beings, that's particularly important, this transition, because we will be being embodied by another being, and there's a process for becoming human again. So these are the steps in whatever ritual you're doing within the Work That Reconnects or any other place that you want to pay attention to. And so we're going to invite you to keep these steps in mind as we now go into further teaching and pulling out the specifics for the Council of All Beings.
So the Council of All Beings is a beloved staple practice and ritual of the Work That Reconnects. It was created by Joanna Macy and John Seed in Australia in 1985. It's a practice of empathy and of connection. It's really designed with the intention of supporting that shift from egocentric to an ecocentric perspective, and really our interconnectedness with all of life. So council is one of the rituals that works really well as a standalone practice. We'll go into more details about that soon. And through it, participants can move through the 4 stages of the spiral. So it was really designed as an in-person experience or on the land experience, but it can be modified for a virtual experience as well. So depending on how the practice is designed, it can be offered anywhere for an hour to a full day. It serves really well as its own practice, and it also can be combined and extended with other practices or experiences. It's a simple practice. It offers really clear parameters and allows for creative expression, spontaneous movement, and the movement of painful emotions. So during council, beings come forth to speak of their concerns and the challenges they face, and really to be witnessed and received by humans. It's through the process of sharing and recognition and acknowledgement of the suffering that these beings are experienced as caused by the human species that all the beings in council begin to experience really a sense of deep empathy for each other. And the humans connected as well begin to gain just a broader awareness of our interconnectedness and our interdependence grows. Beings also share messages of their unique gifts, and through that, humans really are able to start to gain fresh perspectives, new insights, and in the going forth, ways to start to act on behalf of life.
So this practice provides us as humans this opportunity to experience what we call an expanded sense of self, our ecological self, to be embodied by another being. And when we talk about beings, it can be an animal, a plant, a landform, a particular place, a mythical being. We are experiencing that connection, and then we're also being inspired by that connection and the gifts from these beings to be able to move forward in a more connected way as we continue to move through the great turning. So I'd like to do a brief teaching on the expanded sense of self. This is part of the context of this ritual and some of the intention of the ritual. One of the symptoms of our industrial growth society is a preoccupation with the self. This leads to people taking actions that are based primarily on self-interest. It's important to have a healthy sense of self, but if we only identify as an individual, we can feel disconnected and isolated, and we may well not care how our actions impact others. But when we see ourselves as part of a family or a group, we start to care about the well-being of others who fall into these groups. Our choices and actions take into consideration the needs of others. Our sense of caring and connection expands when we see ourselves as part of a larger community of people. What matters to me, what I see as being in my self-interest, now includes the well-being of everyone in my community. And when we start to see ourselves as part of the entire human society, our sense of self expands yet again. So does our capacity to understand more complex connections between and through different communities. The color of someone's skin, their country of origin, their religious beliefs, their economic status, their sexual orientation, all these things no longer divide us when we embrace all of humanity as being part of our identity as a human being. And when we expand our sense of self to include all life on the planet, we shift into another dimension of connection that empowers us with the realization that everything of Earth is our family, and we are part of everything in Earth. Philosopher Arne Naess coined the term ecological self to describe this wider sense of identity that arises when our self-interest includes the natural world. For the Indigenous peoples alive today and for all of our Indigenous ancestors, this awareness of interconnection to all life is at the core of their identity. All species, all beings, Earth itself, are sentient, honored, and are seen as our relations. We are a part of this web of life. So let's imagine for a moment what life would be like if each and every one of us, from those running the multinational corporations, governments, and Wall Street, to people like you and me, lived with the perspective of this web of life. If everyone fell in love with ecology, with the intricacies of ecosystems, with photosynthesis, food chains, the intelligence of nature, if we all recognize that humans are a part of these food chains and natural processes, not separate from them. If we all fully comprehended our interdependence and connection to the world around us. If we all could look at the trees and see them as the lungs of Earth, breathing out oxygen as they breathe in the carbon dioxide we give off. As more and more of us embrace this expanded sense of self, and recognize that our self-interest is intertwined with the health and happiness of the world, we will create a much more just, kind, and sustainable world. Rather than destroying the planet, we might well start cherishing it. Rather than killing off sibling species, we can live in harmony with them. This awareness of interconnection was introduced into the Western mindset by scientist James Lovelock. He recognized that the Earth is one huge living system that self-regulates in order to maintain conditions that sustain life. He called this awareness of Earth's aliveness Gaia theory. He named his theory after Gaia, the Greek goddess of Earth. Lovelock goes on to suppose that human beings have evolved with our ability for self-reflection to be the organs through which Gaia can know herself. He writes, "Through our eyes, she has for the first time seen her very fair face, and in our minds become aware of herself. We do indeed belong here. The Earth is more than just a home, it's a living system, and we are part of it. We can find great strength and conviction to act on behalf of all life when we see ourselves in this way." Rainforest activist John Seed has a beautiful way of expressing this. When asked how he handles despair, he replied, "I try to remember that it's not me, John Seed, trying to protect the rainforest. Rather, I am part of the rainforest protecting itself. I am that part of the rainforest recently emerged into human thinking." It's this life-altering awareness of interconnection and inner being that we explore and embody in the Council of All Being ritual, and what we will be going into in more depth right now.
So, how do we go about being chosen by a being? And how do we know that we've been chosen by a being? So the process of really taking time and intention to step outside of the distractions of our middle world daily life experience and all those entanglements is really crucial to supporting our experience of that expanded and expanding sense of self, and our interconnection with the web of life. So depending on if you're offering a virtual or an in-person ritual, if it's virtual, I typically offer a 3-hour workshop. I have offered councils as short as 90 minutes. We're going to be experiencing a 30-minute ritual today. This is not how Kathleen and I would normally do it. But to really have time to go into the heart of it and take time there is important. So when I'm offering it virtually, as with each of you, I tend to open the ritual ahead of time. I send an email. Well, I open the ritual myself by taking time and going on the land and listening and being called, listening to what wants to come through during this particular council. And I'll email all participants and send them instructions like the instructions that you received to go out onto the land and to be called as well. And facilitators have different ways of approaching council. I personally step into council as the beings. We come as the beings, and it isn't towards the end of council that we get to meet the humans that those beings were called by. So, but this is not your typical council. I've experienced and facilitated council many times, and I've done it, both Kathleen and I have done it by the book, as the original practice was intended, and then it moves through us in different ways. So you'll be, as you watch the recording later, experiencing different takes, slightly different takes on council. So as you received that email with instructions to go out onto the land and be called by a being in person, It's really being called by a being is part of the experience. So we would have some sort of group process initially. If it's a standalone, maybe we would have some introductions, and surely we'd have introductions and gratitude and some experiences, and then send participants out onto the land to be called, and really giving clear parameters for safety depending on location, timing, but really support participants in building that intrinsic trust that they will be called. To not overthink it, to be surprised, to really trust who shows up. Could be a hawk flying overhead or an ant by your feet. It could be anything. It could be the wind. And so to really take time to be with the beings on the land and allow the messages, the symbols, the images of that being or beings to move really fully into our awareness. And then after a designated period of time, we would sound a gong or something to call everyone back into the workshop space. So, and this is in person, right? Returning in silence, participants would find an array of craft making supplies for mask making, costuming, starting to embody those beings. So a typical council, like the image that Kathleen showed, involves making masks out of paper bags or paper plates. You can also add fabrics, colorful yarn, glue, paint, even face paint. I've had a number of participants show up virtually with their faces just painted beautifully. Yeah, and elaborate clothing. So I would also invite participants to bring materials that they might want to use, even clothing, just nothing really too specific, to really offer the space for them to step into that creative flow, right? We don't want to go to, before being called, a Council of All Beings workshop with an idea of who we're going to become, right? I have this wonderful lion mask that I would love to wear, but who's really wanting to come to council today? That mask making and that process of adornment is part of the process. We're in the ceremony, we're in the ritual, we're listening to, if it's face paint, how that being wants to show up through our skin, through our hair, through our adornment, through our clothing. And of course, it can be really simple as holding up a printed image of a being. I've had people on Zoom show up with an image that they've been called by, or paper masks as well. Doesn't have to be elaborate. Yeah. Sometimes that holding something up can feel cumbersome while we're on Zoom. That can be a little challenging. So having some way to attach it to your face can help. It's really a different experience virtually as online. Online to support that transitioning into being. I'll also have people change their names. We'll be doing that later, renaming ourselves to the being that's in council today. In person, in council, the beings will be moving into the center of council to speak and show up and move. Yeah, so with that mask making process, really allowing time, 30 minutes, include a break, really offering participants that time to get into it, to get into the flow, to get into the creativity of it. And as well for the facilitator. So it's really important for facilitators to practice stepping outside of our ego experience, to hold both fields and to really embody the being that has called us as well, and to model that for our participants. So in person, as the mask making concludes, we may enter a period of really exploring the embodiment of these beings, to have some movement and sounding, to really start to let go of our human identity. So the ego really likes to take hold. It can be hard to let that go. So I'll just say that having a mask or having your face painted can really support us in stepping aside and letting that ego go. It's almost like we can hide behind the mask, right? And let the being take over. So I have had participants show up without any adornment, without masks, and everyone is welcome, however they appear. But that can really support us. And it's one of the aspects that I love about council is just that sense of play. We don't get to do that as adults. We really don't. So council is an invitation to play, to experiment and try new things. And I also really encourage, and Kathleen will go into the specific parts of council, but I encourage participants, in addition to their being bodies, to really engage their being voices and their being languages and their being sounds. So to really speak as hawk, as tree, as grub, as water. I don't know how water would sound. I'm not water today, but maybe one of you is, and we can hear water in this space. And to really move as hawk, as tree, as grub, as water. Have fun with it.
Yes, I had a participant once in a live or in person, a temporary wetland, and he would just run around and fall down on the ground, then get up and run around and fall down on the ground. So, and then get back up again as his temporary self. So in person, there is more freedom certainly in this ritual, and we want to encourage as much of that online as well. So once we have been called by a being, then we are calling people to council. Now, in person, this can be a beautiful, you can parade in, you form a circle of all the beings. And online, we can call in as well. A tip for you, if you're going to use a drum or your voice or another instrument, you want to turn on the setting original sound for musicians in your settings in Zoom, and then make sure you turn it on. And just to give you a comparison, this is with it off. And then once I turn it on, now you can hear the drum. So that this is key for doing any kind of instrumentation or singing on Zoom, to call people in. Right? So you'll find your way of bringing people in to the council. In person, oftentimes then we'll be standing or sitting in a large circle. There are chairs or cushions in the center, and those are for the humans. And in person, during this process, people take turns taking off their mask, sitting in the center, being humans, and being silent. Humans just take in, what is being shared. And in person, people just keep trading off those spots, usually just spontaneously is helpful, so that you get an experience of being the human, hearing from the other beings, and then stepping back into your being self. Right? Online, again, depending on how much time you have, you can do. Frieda often has them people if they wanting to step into your human form, turning off your camera, so that says I'm going to be a human for a while and listen. How I've been doing council in a shorter group, in a 5-part series, in a shorter amount of time. With a small group, I just speak the names of the humans into the group, and then allow them to hear the gifts that are being shared. So you want to adapt your human experience to the number of people that you have, the amount of time that you're using, that you have. It's important, though, that we experience this ritual both as human and as our being, and really be able to receive the gifts from the being as our human self. There are 3 prompts in this ritual. And again, Frieda and I do the prompts a little bit differently. So you'll be able to experience both of them once you watch the final recording. But basically, we are allowing the beings to speak to the humans, to let them know what's going on in the world. And then with this recognition that we're all in this together, we want to empower these humans to do great things in the great turning. So we're offering them gifts and reminding them of their interconnectedness. And so again, it's just important that you find ways to allow people to be both human and the being. And then once the ritual then is completed, then you're going to close the council in the same way that you open the council, and then you step into a process of making that transition, which Frieda is going to talk about, transitioning from being back to human.
Yeah, so at the conclusion, after closing council, we really ritualize this returning to human form by de-embodying the being and entering human form. So in person, this can be done with movement, by entering the circle of council and embodying that transition while being witnessed by council. Online, I find it really important to do something physical to release that being. It's so easy on Zoom to just forget about our bodies, at least for me. I have this experience of forgetting about my body. So remembering the body and allowing the body to show up even on this small Zoom screen. So online, doing something really physical to release that being, removing a mask, shaking it off, taking a deep inhale and exhale, a neck roll, standing and sitting, turning around in your seat, anything like that to really help your body to feel that transition. And as I mentioned, I get a lot of people with face paint, and I've seen people come with a wet cloth at this point to sort of remove the paint as part of that transition. And online, I'll at that point have everyone, as they're transitioning one by one from being to human, rename themselves in Zoom to their human name. And then in person, that process of transitioning and then returning to our seats as the human. So we really want to ritualize this transition to honor and thank the beings and the gifts, and then to weave the gifts of the beings as unique to each human that was called. Oh, there you are. So we are going to start to prepare for ritual. We're going to take a 5-minute break to take time to embody our being, to adorn ourselves in whatever way we feel called to today. And we will return from our 5-minute break as the being. We'll ask you to return with your cameras off and to rename yourself as the being. And Kathleen and I will lead you in a bit of brief embodiment in this main room, and just to help you to further step into that connection. And then we will, the group will move into 2 separate rooms, and we'll step right into council. Half of you will be with myself and half of you will be with Kathleen. Anything?
And if you didn't have time to do the processing work of being called by a being, take this 5 minutes to do a quick check-in to see, who is showing up, who you're attracted to, who you might have a resonance with that would like to speak through you. And if you didn't have time to make a mask or whatever, don't worry. I'll just take this time to just see who would like to show up right now in this moment.
There's a note from someone whose English is not their mother tongue. Please, all languages are welcome here. So being language, human language, speak as you feel called to speak. So if it's Spanish, please bring it. I'll also say that since our time is so limited for the ritual, it's likely that not everyone will have a chance to fully show up. Of course, we want to hear from everyone. We'll do our best. The purpose of the recording is because this is a teaching webinar. We are a teaching community, a learning and growing community, and it's to support facilitators in this work. Also, many are still transitioning to virtual or transitioning back to in-person, and we want to support our facilitators in any way. This is, I think, my favorite ritual, so I'm really excited to be here with you all. And can't wait to see who shows up. If you haven't already, it is now time to step outside of our human experience and into that of the one who has chosen to come to counsel through you today. Let us make our way to counsel. I invite you to begin to let yourself feel how it is to embody this life form. What shape are you? How much space do you take up? What is your skin or outer surface like? What are your insides like? Do you have roots, whiskers, scales, feathers? Do you move across the land? Through the ocean or deep underground? How do you move? Do you sway, float, or drift? Do you stand tall? Are your movements microscopic or massive? Are you a force to be reckoned with? Or are you tender-footed? Are you moved or shaped by other forces? How so? How do you take notice of what's happening around you? How do you sense the world? What kind of sound do you make? Do you howl or growl? Do you scream? Do you chirp, or are you silent? As we make our way to counsel, I invite you to begin to explore these sounds. You are muted. Allow yourself to explore the sounds that you make. So half of you should be receiving a notification to move into a breakout room. So please look for that and respond. If you don't receive a notification, please stay right here.
Ooh! 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 I am Wolf, and I welcome you all to this council of all beings. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here at such an important time. We are here and to speak with this group of humans who have come together today to understand better what is happening in the world, their part in it, and what they can do to make things better. So thank you all for coming and being here to share your wisdom and your knowing. We are quite a large council, and unfortunately we are constrained by this thing called human time. So in this place, I have set our order on our screen to be able to facilitate as much of the sharing as possible. And so we are going to move through this time together, first expressing what it is that we love about being alive on Earth so the humans can hear how amazing this world is. And so we're going to start going through this process, and I'm going to invite as many of you to speak as possible. And then I'll let us know when we shift into the second part of the sharing for these humans. And so I, as Gray Wolf, love being a part of a pack. I travel with my family everywhere. We protect and raise our pups all together. I am rarely alone. And travel in the most beautiful of countries, and lands and forests and waters. So this is just one thing that I love about being a gray wolf, that I get to travel with my family, with my pack, with my young. And so now I'm going to move and invite Earthworm into this space. And so I see Earthworm, air, water, chicken, eyed hawk, moth, small white butterfly, katydid. So I hope all of you are seeing the similar order, and we'll go around for as many as we can. So Earthworm, please let us know, what is it that you love about being you?
I love farmers who take care of their soil. I love to be a special part of my environment, and feed the birds and be part of the earth and the air and the whole entireness around me.
Thank you, Earthworm. Air.
I am air. I go everywhere. You dig a hole and I am there. You look up high and I am there. I am everywhere. I am full. I receive everything that you give me. Pollutants, rain, it all comes through me. You breathe me. I am inside of you and outside of you. I am everywhere. I am air.
Thank you, air. Water. We welcome you.
I am water. I am more than 70% of the surface of this planet. It's called blue because of me. And I love this planet. I love its inhabitants, and I hold them whenever they come and visit. and I know how to be held as well. I am fluid and I go places nothing else can go to. I endure and I love to dance with the elements. I am water.
Water. And Waya, water river, we welcome you.
I am water and I feel you so deep. I feel all beings. I'm everywhere. I support all life in this planet. And I see you, I feel you, and I carry all the memories of all beings every times. And I love to dance. I love to have fun and to flow. I'm strong and I go lightly in life, from the river to the ocean, to big unity, big ocean.
Thank you, water. And now river, we welcome you.
I am the river of Hawaii. Vai flows through everything. The flow of emotion, the power to move rocks, the power to move mountains. I'm Vai.
Thank you, Vi. We welcome in chicken.
I am chicken. I love raising my babies. I'm an extremely good mother. I love to teach them to sunbathe and dust bathe and to pick at the earth to find different tasty morsels. And I love to perch above the ground at night where I feel safer. And I'm extremely social. I have lots of friends and we talk about all kinds of things and share our emotions. We have a lot of empathy for each other. I am chicken.
Chicken. We welcome in eyed hawk moth. And you are muted, eyed hawk moth.
Oh, thank you. I'm Eyed Hawk Moth, and I like to fly long distances through the orchards and the parklands, the gardens, and on the edges of the woodlands. And I specifically like the orchards with the apples, where I can lay my eggs and have the young ones fed on the apples. And what I specifically like about me as an adult eyed hawk moth, I do not need to eat.
Thank you. We call in small white butterfly.
I am small white butterfly and I love to fly through the air with my other butterflies and landing on beautiful bright flowers. I love the taste of pollen. I love hopping from flower to flower and dancing through the air with my butterfly friends. I am small white butterfly.
Thank you. We welcome in Katydid.
I am one who comes out of the ground, and I am so in love with my transitions all the way to the point where I have incredible power in very spring-loaded legs that can get me from branch to branch. And I am moving very slowly, and I love the slow motion, to be able to be so particular about where I go and what I eat, and that I blend in with my surroundings. I love all of my transitions. I like my fast movements and I like my slow movements.
Thank you. We welcome in Spirit of Fire.
I am the spirit of fire. I am life unfolding and evolving, changing and growing. There will be nothing left stagnant. We are transforming.
Thank you. We welcome in Bear.
I am Bear, and I love the solitude of the forest, the beautiful deep forest, where I can trudge through the growth, picking out delicious berries or encounter a fish. And I look after my young ones with fierce strength if needed, and gentle playfulness most of the time. And I like to hide away during the cold winters and to re-emerge in the spring.
Thank you.
I'm Bear.
Thank you, Bear. It is time now for us to shift in our sharing to what is difficult about being alive on Earth right now for you. To shift and let the humans know what is challenging for you. And we have many in this council, so we know that there are many things that are challenging us. If you can share maybe one thing that is challenging, that would be helpful in this particular council. So Dragonfly, if you can explain why it's challenging to be alive on Earth right now.
Sometimes I find it's hard to see clear water. I'm missing the fresh water and the clear skies. I see lots of pollution in the skies and it makes me sad. And it affects my flight.
Thank you, Dragonfly. Oak Tree, why is it challenging for you?
The weather changing. Sometimes it's so dry. There's nothing to drink. And sometimes it's so wet. All my roots go soggy. I'm confused.
Thank you. Broken Nest. You're muted, Broken Nest.
What is so challenging for me is that more and more there is the deforestation and my birds can no longer build a nest, or the nest is falling and I'm getting broken. And even if I'm exceptional, even if I exist in so many different fabrics and material, I am a home to all the birds. I am a home to all those babies. And I see them falling and I see those family suffering and I can't help it. I cannot help it.
Thank you, Broken Nest. Full harvest moon, full moon. What is challenging for you?
What's challenging for me is that I'm here to protect all of us, want to shine, and that I think that most of us are not thinking of me as much as they used to, or connecting with me as much as they should, because I'm here to protect us. And I'd like to come to all of you when you sleep, in your dream, with signs and ideas. So just pay attention and everything is going to be okay.
Thank you. Tropical Bird.
What is challenging for me is not being able to find a place to build a home. What is challenging for me is sometimes the air is so hot that I feel I can't breathe and my heart is stopping. what is challenging for me is finding clean water.
Thank you. Coast Sailor Sea, welcome. What's challenging for you?
I'm missing my beloved whales who used to roam so freely in my waters. And I'm missing my salmon that are no longer coming to me through the rivers and streams from the mountains. And I am sad by all of the pollution and garbage and toxins that are filling me.
Mouse, we welcome you. What is challenging for you?
What's challenging for us is not enough food, too many competing for the same food, and spaces. Our nests are being contaminated by poisons. Not enough food. And mice.
Thank you. Honeybee, what's challenging for you?
Similar to mouse, our foods are getting contaminated, our communities are getting confused. When we fly out to find the nectar, the airwaves are erratic and our pathways are confused, and it's hot, and there aren't enough pauses with water safely to land without drowning from sheer exhaustion. It's confusing and quite alarming. I am Honeybee.
Larvae, what's challenging for you?
Sometimes I can't find the right things to eat. I'm very picky about what I eat. And when I can find something I like eating, and I transform myself into a pupa and curl up in the dry pile of leaves, I get blown away and thrown away. And I can't become my winged self. And the birds won't find me. And the people won't see me as my beautiful winged self, sometimes at night. But I'm there, I'm quiet. And so that's hard because I'm a tiny larva.
Eelgrass, what is challenging for you?
My habitat is disturbed and I don't find the water so tasty any longer. I've been here so long and now it just doesn't taste very good. I'm also missing a lot of my friends who live in my forest.
Thank you, eelgrass. And wind, we come back to you. What is challenging for you?
Thank you. For me, it's challenging that there are not enough trees right now. And the air is too cold and change cold, and then and I can control my movement, and sometimes I am too strong, and I love to move and I love to dance with the trees, but when I am too strong, I broke them, and I don't like to do that, but I can't control myself if the air is too cold. or too hot, and complete changing, hot and cold, and I have to move, and so blow so strong that I broke homes and trees, and I don't want to do that, but I can control myself.
Thank you, Wind. Oh, so beings, we know that we are truly living in extraordinary and challenging times. And these humans, they have forgotten, so many of them have forgotten that they are a part of us, that we are interconnected, that we breathe the same air, drink the same water. But there is this group of humans who are here listening to us now, and they do care, and they have heard us. And so knowing that our fate lies in the hands of these humans and others like them to find their way back to their interconnectedness, to their knowing of who they are. What is a gift that we can share with them to help them to remember again who they are and to empower them into this thing that they call the great turning. And so I, as Wolf, I offer the gift to the humans of working together. Hang out in your pack. Work together. Don't do this alone. This is my gift. Earthworm, what is your gift for the humans? And you are muted, Earthworm. The silly human technology we're forced to use.
That's right. My gift is to digest the soil and add air to it where I make my wormholes and share my being and my travels with the earth that feeds the humans.
Thank you. Air.
I give the gift of clarity.
Water.
I give the gift of being soft and yielding, the gift that the soft overcomes the hard and the gentle overcomes the rigid.
By the Hawaiian River, I believe.
Yes. I offer a connection to emotion, to cry, to grieve, to let go and flow.
And I give, as water, a deep love, and human beings feel and remember their water wisdom.
Thank you. Chicken.
I give the gift of empathy. I have a lot of empathy for my fellow beings who are enslaved by humans. And I give the gift of empathy to humans to stop seeing us as food.
I'd hawk moth.
I give the gift of beauty. Never forget to look at things and the beauty of it all.
White butterfly.
I give the gift of dancing through the air and showing that I can be solid yet light, and that when we let things grow and not overmanage them, beautiful dancing can happen.
Katie did.
I give the gift of listening to the messages that come in unusual forms and from unexpected places.
Fire.
Let go and come fully alive. Embrace.
Bear.
I give the gift of subsistence and pulling back to hibernate and reflect and live simply for periods of time.
Dragonfly.
I give the gift of remembering that we are all light and that we're here to share light with each other.
Stand strong with courage and nobility, underground connections with one another.
Thank you. Broken nest.
I give the awareness of the full interdependence of life. There is no home to no one, no being on earth without understanding the notion of interdependence.
And forever and ever, I've been hopefully giving universal love and compassion. And every time you look at me in the sky, remember that we are all together, and remember to cherish all living beings, and that your heart is all set up for that.
Tropical bird.
I give the gift of the beauty of birdsong. Do you want to keep listening? Do you want to have a world with no birdsong?
Thank you. Coast Sailor Sea.
I give the gift of food, of nourishment, of connection and flow.
Thank you. Wind.
I offer the gift of my strength so that you can do whatever needs to be done for the great turning.
Mouse.
I give the gift of curiosity balanced by love and interconnectedness.
I give the gift of beauty making with you as you learn to tend your gardens in healthy ways and grow a blend of food and flowers and enjoying each other's company.
Thank you. Larvae.
I offer the gift of patience and the ability to read subtle cues and rhythms in the environment, and most of all, transformation.
And eelgrass.
I give the gift of community restoration and new habitat through collaboration.
Thank you, all beings. And ask now the humans who are here really take in these gifts. They are freely given, helping you to remember who you are, remembering that we are all related, we are all one. And so grateful for this particular gathering of beings. Thank you so much for coming, for sharing what you have to share. And we do have 1 or 2 more minutes here if there's anyone who would like to share anything else in this council. Feel free to do so at this time. Anything that you would like to share, either about what you love about being you, or challenges, or additional gifts for the humans.
As chicken, I am asking humans to seriously consider the suffering that the 70 billion chickens killed on this planet Earth every year go through. And to think about who we really are. And consider the fact that you don't need to eat us. And that we could go back to being forest fowl, free, living free in the jungle.
Welcome each of you to council. Thank you for joining us. Speak of your experience on the planet at this time. I am Baleen Whale, and I speak for myself and my pod. What brings you to council today? What is your experience of being alive at this particular time? I just invite each of you to share your unique experience of being on this planet.
I have two names, a French name, Beau Sapin, and a Douglas fir here. And what my experience is, I'm right now moving slowly in a slight wind that is here. And I feel that I am connecting heaven and earth, and invite every other being to connect heaven and earth, the passageway. I'm also hosting a couple of squirrels who love to go up and down my bark. And I just love this life that is flowing both around me and on me. And my sense is, with all the fires and the droughts that are happening, to be very aware of what it takes for us trees to stay alive and well and shelter everything. I've spoken.
I hear you, Beau Sapin, Douglas fir.
I hear you, Douglas fir.
Hear you, Beau Sapin, Douglas fir.
Hear you, Beau Sapin, Douglas fir.
I hear you, Beau Sapin, Douglas fir.
Pollen.
I am Pollen, and I speak for all biodiversity of the planet. I am here waiting on the kangaroo paw in Australia for something to take me to another flower for me to do my job. It might be a bee, a bird, or the wind. I'll wait patiently here to allow the other beings to disperse me. Pollen complete.
I hear you, Pollen.
I hear you,
I hear you, Pollen.
I hear you, Pollen.
I hear you, Pollen.
I hear you,
I hear you, Pollen.
Thank you. Thank you, all council, all beings. I am swaying in wind. I have been standing here swaying for hundreds of years. I love the birds, the beings that surround us in this forest. I'm very thirsty. I usually drink deeply in the spring in order to, it sees me through, but the rains stop so much sooner than usual, and I'm very thirsty. I'm very dry. And the air is filled with smoke. There are trees burning everywhere across this province of Western Canada. It is the air, all the birds speak of it. They're so afraid. We're all very deeply afraid and concerned, and these are very, very dangerous times. I'm done. Thank you.
I hear you, Cedar.
I hear you, Cedar.
I hear you.
I hear you,
Cedar.
Cedar.
I hear you, Cedar.
I am Three Feathers. I come from the indigenous peoples of Aotearoa, and they have named me Ti Rakura, and I am the symbol of non-violent resistance. My heart is heavy in these times. There is so much divisiveness among your human race. Unity is what is called for, global unity. I come from an episode in the history of Aotearoa, an episode of shame for the white man. I come from a village Parihaka, who led a form of non-violent resistance which informed the world and influenced Nelson Mandela and Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. and the Japanese Buddhist Ikeda. But the people of Parihaka were hurt, many died, women raped, from the greed of white men for the land.
I hear you, Three Feathers.
I hear you, Three Feathers.
I hear you,
Three Feathers.
Three Feathers. I'm a creek that runs through the mountains of Colorado, down the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. And I'm here today because I may not be here tomorrow. Every day I run lower and lower and lower, and I have just less and less energy. And I just can water less and less trees. And once upon a time, I used to run all the way through the valley and down into the marshes, and I used to irrigate huge pieces of land that's where the birds will come every spring and every fall. And now I don't have that capacity. And just run a little bit during a little piece of the year, and I don't know how long I'm going to keep running, because the glaciers that used to feed me, the water that was up there that used to feed me for millions of years, is not there anymore. But I will keep running as far as the clouds and the rain help me.
I hear you,
I hear you, Creek of the Mountains.
So Baleen Whale longs to be in the space and to hear each of you sharing of your experience on the land at this time. And we are moving into the second part of council, where the beings speak directly to the humans about the impact that humans are making on our lives. I see insect on a leaf and cicade and poppy And Mountain Ash, would you like to speak directly to the humans? The humans are listening. They are hearing us. Imagine the humans that sat on the land waiting to be called by you, and the humans that love those humans and are connected to those humans. There is this way that they are all here with us and witness.
I am a particular insect on the leaves. I live on a giant tree, which is thousands bigger than me, and I enjoy it. I love it so much. My ancestors told me we have been living on this tree for all this time. But is that you, human beings, my neighbors, that have been visiting me so frequently? Now, I have a question for you because my ancestors told me we can mate, we can breed when the sun is down. But for these days, I don't know why do we have so many suns up in the sky. All this time it is bright, and I have nowhere to hide. I have nowhere. I don't have the inner clock in me anymore to know the perfect timing for me to find my life partners. So is that you, my human neighbor, that has created so many suns, so many light for me? That has been very confusing. That has been extremely confusing. I cannot find my partners. Is that you, my human neighbors? Have you been visiting me, but also creating extra light, extra daytime for me? I don't need that. Thank you, but I do not need that.
I hear you, insect on a leaf.
I hear you, insect on a leaf.
Hear you, insect on a leaf.
I hear you,
I
insect
hear
on a leaf.
Hear you, insect on a leaf.
Insect on a leaf.
Cicade.
I come to you as an elder. I'm one of the oldest living plants on the world. I survived the Triassic mass extinction. But I don't know if I'll survive you. Please, think of us. You're elders, we have knowledge. We can share with you if you listen to us. Please.
I hear you, Cicade.
I hear you.
I
Hear you, Cicade.
I hear you, Cicada.
Mountain Ash in Tasmania.
I am here with deep sadness. I am 500 years old, and a brother tree who is 400 years old was chopped down just yesterday. I have lived for 500 years with birds and possums and insects and butterflies and beetles living in my branches in my huge canopy. But I speak on behalf of rainforests, and I live in the rainforest in Tasmania, and so many of these trees are being chopped down. So humans, I want you to remember that we are irreplaceable, the old growth forests, and you need us for your survival, to give oxygen, To capture carbon, to help with the harmony of the whole planet, you need rainforests to survive. We are also beautiful. I would urge all humans to walk through the forests and to remember the beauty, not only of the trees, but all the creatures that live here. The rainforests are being logged so quickly, so fast, really for profit, for greed. We can have plantation trees rather than chopping down forests that have taken thousands of years to become what they are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mountain Ash.
Hear you, Mountain Ash.
Hear you, Mountain Ash from Tasmania.
Mountain Ash from Tasmania.
Hear you, Mountain Ash.
Hello, humans. We've known each other for a long time. We've lived side by side. I've worked for you. I've built your roads. I've gone to war for you. I've gone down into your mines. And now I find myself with my families in countries that you brought us to so that we could work for you. And we have found our lives here in deserts, in spaces that you didn't want. And now we're no longer workers for you. You call us feral and invasive, and you shoot us from these loud machines in the sky, and you chase us away, and you take the women amongst us and you put a collar around their necks so that they can find their families, and then you can shoot them. And we have so much to do together. Humans and donkeys, we have been friends and partners, and many of my cousins are dear, dear friends of some of your cousins and live with you and love you and you love them. But us, the ones that you call feral and invasive and pests, you kill us and you chase us and you terrify us and you injure us and you turn us against each other. And we want to live here with you. We think that we have much to teach you about resilience and about retaining a sense of play and love, even in these times. So humans, please remember who we've been to you. Thank you. That's all I have to say to you.
Thank you, Donkey.
I hear you,
Thank
Donkey.
you,
I hear you, Donkey. I hear you,
I hear you,
Donkey.
Donkey.
Thank you, Donkey. So beings, I know that we all have so much that we would like to say to the humans, so much to share. We are moving into the third part of ritual. This is where we share our gifts. We all have gifts that we can offer to the humans, that we do offer to the humans that they may not recognize. So really, for humans and their technological advances and their supposed power, they're really starting to catch on to what's happening with our climate and weather patterns, how our lives are being impacted. They're listening and receiving our stories. And many of them are afraid. They're in fear and shame and grief. They may be feeling helpless and numb. They recognize what's happening and may feel overwhelmed by the momentum of what's happening, of what they've contributed to. But it does not serve our survival or their survival for them to panic or give up. We recognize that our lives are truly in their hands. So they're intrigued by what we have shared. And what if they could awaken to the interconnectedness of life that we feel, that we recognize? What if they could also recognize their place in the web. They could, I imagine they might start to change their ways. So what strengths and gifts can each of us offer them to support their awareness of our plight? I see Hill Indigo. Please share with us your gifts.
Hello, Council. Hello, humans. One of the gifts that I want to share with the humans is my ability to translate the messages from the moon to the earth. And the gift that I want to share for humans is that they can come out to sit with me in the nighttime, to come and receive the moonbeams the same way that I do, to look up to the moon and to become aware of natural time passing in their lives rather than human time. And in coming out to sit with me and reconnect with the moon, they can start to understand that right timing and right action can become one again. That all creatures, all beings have to abide by natural time. And that's the gift that I would like to offer to humans, the invitation through sitting with me to come back into natural cycles of time. Thank you.
Thank you for your gift.
Thank you, Hill Indigo.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
gift, Indigo.
Thank you, Indigo.
Hello. I want to share the gift of death. And I would like to invite you humans to be at peace with that, to be at peace with your immortality. I would like to offer the talent that I have to see through darkness and to fly in beauty. I would like to invite you to think about the fact that you can't live that longer in this planet in the way in which you are. It's not sustainable. That's my gift.
I hear you, Owl.
I
hear you, Owl.
I hear you, Al.
I come to council today as Prairie Land, and I represent all grasslands. The gifts that we grasslands and prairie lands across the globe bring to our planet, to all of the interconnected life, is sustainment of soil and water, penetrating water down into the sphere of this planet. The wind moves me. I pick up nutrients and sun and wind, and through that motion, almost like silica, I bring down into the ocean. I bring down into the planet, into soil. I bring down water that rises up and bubbles up and becomes streams on mountains that flow down into the ocean that then rises into the little cloud. The prairie lands are so key in the diversity that we have. We allow for habitat for so many species. We request more diversity, more prairie lands to grow, less monocultured grass, more prairie, more prairie, more prairie, more wind, more nutrients, and more water. I have spoken.
Thank you
for your gifts.
We hear you, Prairie Land.
Prairie Land.
We trees bring you the gift of groundedness, deep groundedness, as well as the flexibility to dance with what is while being rooted. And also this capacity to reach for the sky, to always want to go higher and be in touch with the immensity of the atmosphere and the clouds. I've spoken.
We hear you.
Thank you. We hear you, Bosapan.
Yeah, you.
Humans, our people have suffered so much and we continue to suffer. We have literally been your beasts of burden. And yet we retain such a joy in our lives and each other, and we still play. And we know how to move between the reality of our suffering and the possibility of still being in the moments that we have where we can have joy. And that is the gift that we have to offer you in this time of so much suffering. Thank you, I've spoken.
Thank you.
We hear you, Donkey.
Thank you, Donkey.
Thank you, Donkey. Love you.
I hear you, Donkey. The times have been so challenging for our people. We have so much to give to you. First, no, it's hard to say what is first, but I think what you need most right now is fertile soil, and we give that to you. We give that to you, and we give you oxygen, and we give you shade, and we give you cooling for this heating planet. And I beg you to help me, help us to move. It's very difficult for us to move in this heating planet. It takes us a long time to move hundreds of miles. We need your help. We need you to help us move ourselves into cooler places so that we can continue to grow and serve you. Please help us. I have spoken.
I hear you, Tree.
I hear you, Tree.
I hear you, Tree.
I hear you, Tree.
So beings, we are coming to the closure of council, and it feels like it's been rich and not enough time for all of us. We are constrained by humans who are enforcing time rules on us. The other council is about to join us again, and I just want to thank you for taking the time to be here with us. And we will have an opportunity for you beings to use chat to share more once we convene our two groups together. So I'm wondering, Little Cloud, if you would bring the other group back to join in with us.
And now it is time to bring this council to a close and to bring our other council members in. And so as they come in, let's all unmute and make a sound to greet them. And so we can close the other room, and all of us, let's unmute and make the sound of our being. Welcome them in. Are we all back together? Is Baleen Whale here with us?
Baleen Whale is here. I am trying to find myself. There we go. Oh, the sea is vast.
So glad you found us here on the shore. I don't swim. I do like to swim, but not out where you are.
Yes, I understand. I don't like to go on land. Welcome back, beings. It's time to start transitioning out of council and into human form. But first, I just want to note that the gifts that you have shared, and not everyone had a chance to share, So please share your gifts in chat, share them with all of us so that we can receive, and that the humans who are here present listening to us can also receive your gifts so they can take them into their hearts and make change in their lives. And know that these gifts that you share, they are not yours alone. They are unique to you, but they are also unique to the human that came to council today with you. So let's take a moment to start to transition, to shake, to move, to remove a mask or hat or adornment, to start to rename our transitioning. So we have 22 minutes for debrief, questions, comments. We would love to hear from you. Again, we would love to hear from as many of you as possible. So please put up your hand and let's open up this space. Broken Nest, is this your hand up with a question?
Hi.
Hi, maybe you could say your
Frieda.
name.
Dominique.
Dominique, thank you.
Yes. Hi, Frieda. Hi, Kathleen. Long time no see. So my question was the following. I was a broken nest. And how do you handle when someone takes a being that is that has a polarity, which is a nest, which is holds life, but at the same time it's broken because the tree is falling. But that is what came to me. So do you accept it? Do you refuse it? How do you handle that?
You showed up beautifully as Broken Nest, and so how you're called is certainly what we would welcome in that space. I'm just curious, did you feel that somehow as Broken Nest that you weren't able to participate in the same way as the other beings? Because
No.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not at all. It's like when you ask what do you like about you, when you have a broken nest, it's difficult to answer that question.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I hear what you're. Yes. Yeah.
So would you encourage people to to say, okay, make a choice, or what would you do?
Yeah, I've never invited somebody to be something other than what they were called into,
Okay.
so but perhaps a response may have been what you liked about being whole, and then why it was difficult then to be broken might have been
Yes.
a way to be able to deal with both of those.
Yes, that's what I thought. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
And Broken Nest, I see beauty even in the brokenness. Right?
Yes. Yes. It is beautiful. Yes.
Often birds return to the same nest, and it's been through a season of wear and tear, and they rebuild it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Coast Salish Sea, can you
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, sorry, I was taking my face off. My question is, I actually felt called specifically as a specific being. I did feel called, I felt Tokate call me. So I guess my question is, how do you respond to a being that's no longer physically here, that is in the spirit realm or has passed on, but clearly her spirit was reaching out to me, I guess is my question.
That is a great question. And I have the sense that only you know the answer to that. I mean, there's certainly space in council for beings who have gone before. You know, I often open it up to the, you know, the invocation with the three and the ancestors and the beings of the present time and the future ones. And so Tokate is an ancestor.
Yeah.
And I think that call to be in this space with us today is really, really unique to you. And that connection that you two have right now.
It's a very deep connection.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment to honor that for the beings who were in the other council. Tokate was an orca who had been in captivity for 50 years and was on her way to freedom in the Puget Sound in the Coast Salish Sea for the first time, and she passed away in captivity yesterday, I believe.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
really grateful to have you here with us today, Tokate.
If I can just quickly say, she did come to me in a spirit of joy, which I'm so thankful for. She was a long part of our community and our lands here, and we were so excited to have her back. And it seemed like it was going to take a long time, and she's back. Not in the way we had hoped, but she's back, and that feels. She came to me in a spirit of joy. So thank you.
Thank you, Tokate. I really feel that.
Are there other questions?
I would say
Yep.
a reminder of the diversion of water. It's the diversion of water that creates fires. Our fires here in Maui, Lahaina used to be lush and full of water, waterfalls flowing, made it the capital of the island. And the water was diverted and taken away, and it became dry land. And Earth lets us know diversion is not right. You need to return waters to their natural flow.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you, Ken. Kauai, Hawaii.
Hi, a couple of questions about facilitating. Do you ever talk about the importance of ritual to the participants, just to help them enter into the significance of it? That's my first question. And the second question is, I think you said that you have the mask making process in silence. So curious about that. That's also.
I mean, we can both speak to that. Yeah, I have experienced and held the mask making experience in silence. Just that the process of sort of the reverie and the honoring and staying in the space of being called and allowing that, because even going on land for 15, 20, 30 minutes is not a long time, right? So to just stay sort of in that field of that connection and allow that connection to really move through participants into physical form, the masks or adornment is really part of it. Of course, I wouldn't necessarily discourage them from beginning to use their animal voices, their being voices. So,
and I've done it both ways. Yeah, there are times when people coming in to make masks and having conversation with each other, helping each other create masks. Some people are more creative than others, and so I've had experience where people are talking and sharing, but focused in on what they're doing. I think it also depends on how you've got it set up, as far as where the location is for making masks and whatnot. And so I've done it both ways. I think you just check in with how you're feeling called to, for that. And as far as speaking directly about the power of ritual, tend not to speak specifically about why it's important that we're doing ritual, as much as facilitators, knowing those steps, laying the foundation, guiding people in and holding, they get the ritual. So unless you were working with a particular group of people who may be very much in their brains, and if ritual is challenging for them, might want to talk a little bit about the power of ritual in general, to help them feel more comfortable stepping into that space.
All right.
Yeah.
Guna Kito, please correct me if I've mispronounced your name.
Guna Ketu, thanks.
Guna Ketu.
I was just wondering, when I've participated or led the councils, the humans have been invited to sit in the middle with the beings around. Is that what you do as well? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Great. Kate.
I'm wondering, I have seen it and heard of it being done, is that you can get more community involved by getting artists involved with special time period outside of the council of all beings to give ideas to people for their mask making. Have you done that, and how was that? I think with a larger community group and making it more of a community process could be really powerful. Is there like a no or a, like not allowed?
Yes, I mean, the work that reconnects is open source practices, right? So as facilitators, we go to the practices and we learn them and we embody them so that we know them as they were originally intentioned, but the practices are all evolving and we're bringing adaptations, and those adaptations are really unique to each of us as facilitators, right? Kathleen and I offer it very differently, and anyone who offers it will offer it differently. And so what you describe is very exciting to me. Like, I would love to have some artists involved and really get into the costuming aspect and take these beings to the land and to theater and to the streets of the town I live in to share some of this experience with the wider world of humanity. So play with it, know it, honor it as it was intended, and start to work with expanding it as feels really true to you and the participants that you're working with.
Thank you.
That answers your question.
That does answer my question. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate.
Yeah.
Yes, I wonder if you could speak more to the way that you would describe how you would know you are chosen by the being. I would love to hear how you frame that.
I'll invite, if we're doing it in person, and that's, or if you're being chosen in a workshop that I would be doing, there would be some guidance for journeying, envisioning your interconnectedness to the land, to the web of life. And then it is about what is coming into your awareness, in that moment. Is there a being that you're feeling that's coming into your awareness that is speaking to your heart? And and for some people that's an easy, that's an experience. Or if you're out and you're actually outside and you're seeing a being passing by, or you're noticing that maybe what then feels like, yes, I would like to, connect with that being. And then sometimes it is, you may be just really involved with a particular place or being, and that just is a part of who you are and resonating. So it's a known sense, and if that fails, then to sort of go to something that you're already connected to, be one way to think about that. Frieda, I know.
I have offered councils that were specific to the lands and beings of Australia. I co-facilitated a few of those, and I don't know a lot. I've never been to Australia. So it sort of tasked participants with attuning to that land, maybe doing some research, or just sort of looking into it and wondering what was maybe there are beings that migrate between the lands that we have a connection to. And so it isn't necessarily doesn't necessarily have to be a direct interaction. It can be like who's coming into our periphery, what's happening in our world. I work with purpose a lot and so soul guidance. So a lot of practices is really that connection on the land and what's happening with us in our own sort of personal journey and evolution.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Mia. Peter.
Hi, very quickly, I realize we're late, we're getting on, but two things. One was community. I was a tree, and I can feel the sense of a lot of individuals are on here. How much do you actually encourage us to give permission for our network to network between ourselves afterwards, so that it builds community, just not through you, but through each other? And the second question is, de-rolling afterwards, can we do a community shake, or is that a bonding thing to do, or do we have to do individual de-rolling? And I'll leave it there.
De-rolling, I like that.
I'll speak to the community part. The Work That Reconnects network that Frieda and I are part of, and Eileen, that is a space to continue to connect and share with others, who have been a part of any kind of Work That Reconnects space. If you're talking about your particular council, there's always an encouragement to continue to be in connection with whoever's been in a workshop that I've done. I think we all try to encourage people to stay connected. But through the Work That Reconnects network, we have a community forum, and that can be a great place to continue conversation with others.
I just want to pull Debbie in here for your question that I saw in chat. Yes, this is a rushed experience of council. This webinar was intended for facilitators to just kind of get a taste of it. I encourage you to go to a council. Both Kathleen and I are offering councils coming up. Kathleen's offering an in-person one in the States in Iowa. I'm offering a virtual one. And the council takes us through the full spiral. So when we have time to actually be in that honoring our pain, the speaking of the humans, of that first place of sharing our experience can be joyful and beautiful and so much gratitude. And for some, they start to share their experience of the suffering. And then we move into that place of honoring our pain, and we do move through. And every council that I've held has been this full spiral experience, and we have a long time to debrief and really build connection in the end. So yeah, I know. And I just really want to honor that feeling. If anyone is feeling sort of that experience of grief or helplessness or hopelessness, that is a part of it, and honor that.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm curious whether you would emphasize or change anything when doing a council of all beings with children, or just with young people in general. Is there anything that you want to say about that?
done this with high school students and have, kept it, and kept the prompts. And again, I'm not sure which one you were in, but I keep the prompts the same for, say, high school age and up. Younger, I mean, little kids, we had talked about this yesterday as well, maybe wanting to focus a little bit more on what's fun about being you, what you love about being you, having that experience of embodiment, having some of the, touching on what might be hard and the gifts, but maybe not emphasizing that middle section as much. I don't know if Frieda, is that?
Yeah, I mean, especially for young folks, the honoring our pain for the world can be tricky. For really young kids, and becoming being is second nature, first nature, right? It's just a part of play and discovery and learning. So it can be a really fun practice with the really young ones to explore that sense of expanded self and the beings that they're noticing and what they're noticing about their relationship with the beings or relationships with each other. As you get a little older and into high school, students are starting to have a greater sense of some of the pain and grief, but I still would tend to keep it a little bit of a light touch and really focus on the gifts and how those gifts are not only alive in that being, but alive in those kids, and that they each bring unique gifts to the world and they're necessary. So I tend to focus a little bit more on that aspect, and really grounding in gratitude at the beginning. And especially with teenagers, allowing them to, if they can and they're comfortable, experience being in the body being. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if anyone is offering it with youth at the network, we would love to have conversations and hear about how that's going. Yeah. Any other questions?
Broken Nest had a question about the maximum number of people to gather.
Yeah, so I'll just say, for me, I much prefer a really intimate experience of council with fewer beings, 10 to 15. I've held councils with virtually 30, 45, but you start to lose that sense of intimacy and really going into those depths of experience when we get quite large. And same with in-person. We can do variations where maybe going into breakout rooms or in person going into set if we have multiple facilitators. Yeah.
It also
Kathleen.
depends on how much time you have for the event. So
Let's say you have a lot of time. Let's say
right.
you
So
have
I
a
mean,
lot of
so if
time.
you were, if you were dedicating a weekend
Yes,
experience
for sure.
to it, you can do more with, but still each council, if your council goes more than 2.5 hours, it can get really long, for people to hang in there. So if you had a really big group, as Frieda was saying, it's best still to break that up into smaller.
Of course.
Yes, I'm wondering if this can also be done in classrooms and what ages.
I've offered it at community college level, which I love, but it can be offered to many levels. I mean, children are naturally engaged in being beings and speaking beings. So if they're quite young, less focus on sort of the destruction of the world and just what they're noticing about these beings and interactions with humans, and that sort of keeping a little lighter. They certainly do have the capacity to go into their emotions, but really also great capacity for playing with the experience of council and that inner being conversation.
Mm-hmm. Would you ever offer it as like so families can come, or is it better to keep the younger ones separate so that you can keep it lighter, like so that more adults could go deeper
Yeah, I mean, it might be if it's parents with their children, so that all the parents have this understanding of how children work to some degree. There might be room for sort of a breakout space where the parents could go maybe a little deeper, something like that. The children could be involved in some other aspect. If you have anything to add, Kathleen, please do.
I've done this in high schools, working collaboration with social studies teachers, and they actually made it a quarter project, so that they wrote they picked a being, they allowed a being to pick themselves. They wrote a paper about the aspects. Then we came in and I did a teaching piece one day, and then we came in and did counsel, and part of that was mask making. So it was an art part. They got art credit, and we were able to come in the high schools and do it, and we did that for 3 years, and it worked really well there too. So yeah, I think it can be done in all spaces.
Crystal?
Hey, I have two questions. I think they're both easy. This is part of in the spiral. This is part of the grief work. Is that right?
Actually, it encompasses the whole spiral. I mean, depending on how you do it. So, because there's an aspect of either making sure that you're doing gratitude before you start the practice, or, I'd like to focus on one of the first prompts as being, what is it that you love about being you and being that being? Then there's definitely the grief part of sharing what's the state of the world. And then the seeing with new and ancient eyes is gifting the humans, and then empowering the humans to move forward is going forth. So this is one of the few rituals that it can be, as we see it, as a standalone ritual, wanting to make sure that you're connecting all those different parts.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. And that's a good segue into my second question, which is, I think you had slightly different questions, and I was in Frieda's room. And so since your room won't be recorded because it's in the breakout room, could we get a copy of those questions?
We will be recording Kathleen's version in the main room tomorrow.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then we'll be merging the recording so that you can see both versions.
Okay, excellent. Thanks.
Yeah, and someone asked when would we have the opportunity to hear, for the humans to step into human form and hear directly from the beings. So often in that second part of council, the way I hold it, half the beings take human form, and the beings speak directly to the humans. So we have that experience of, without, the humans are just receiving and not commenting. They're just silent. So they have that experience of really hearing the truths of these beings, and it's really powerful. We didn't have the time to do that today. And then we would switch, so the beings would become human and the humans would become being, and we'd take turns with that.
And when you do this in person, that it's really easy to do it, and it's really powerful to shift your position and sit in the center and be a human. Take your mask off and switch back and forth online. Again, depending on how much time you have, you can do the same thing, or or just speak the names of the people into the space during the ritual.
Robin.
Yes, thank you both so much for your wisdom today. My question is around how do you hold heaviness with this experience? I recognize when I was thinking through what being was calling me, it was sort of an emotional experience already. And then to go into the council with the other beings was sort of the next level of that. And I can only imagine if I was in person where I am experiencing this as either a human or a being, that at some point that could get even heavier. So I'm just curious your experience in holding the container of space for the expression of heaviness and what your experience has been.
Yeah, maybe we can both speak to this, Kathleen, but it is heavy, right? What's happening out there can be really difficult to hold and to be with. And actually, for me, I'm not really holding it. I'm allowing it to move. Council is a great place for those painful experiences of what we've been witnessing on the land and to these beings and their habitats to move through us, to release. So to really allow that full expression. It is the spiral. So we are being held in the spiral with the grounding and the gratitude, giving voice to the pain, giving voice to the rage or whatever it is a part of it. And those shifts happen into the seeing with new eyes part of the spiral.
I would say that to add to that, that the actual giving voice really does allow a shift in the heaviness, because when we're able to speak it and be witnessed in it, that is the power of honoring our pain, is that it moves through us, which is what we need it to do in order to create more space within us for for those partner emotions. So actually being surrounded by others sharing and expressing and doing it together, witnessing each other, actually you can find that the heaviness can shift, or at least we're not alone in it, and that can be really powerful.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Crystal.
Yeah, thanks. Kind of related, I wanted to go back around the human part of it in the with humans at the center, like listening. And then also this is related to Ying's question in the chat. Are there specific questions you ask human or just random sharing? When you talked about the transition, when so everyone goes into circle as their being, and then their first question is shared out. And then a portion of people come into the center, they kind of go from eco to ego, back to ego. Can you say a little bit about that transition period as far as time goes? Is it a minute? Do you ground again and like when the humans go back out into their being, is that 3 minutes or a minute, or do you see what I'm asking?
I've done it 2 different ways. I mean, again, also it depends on how much time that you have. So if you're not really constricted by time, it's as people feel called. So you have a certain number. I've said so. You have a certain number of spaces, and people are just encouraged to go and be a human for a while, and then as you feel called, you get up and move out, and then someone else will take your place. In the high school, I assigned people 1s and 2s because, with kids, if you're having concern that people will do it, you could just say, now it's time for the 1s to move into the center, and and they could be human. So depending on the type of group, you may script it more or have it be more organic.
Thank you.
I'm very interested in this dialogue, and speaking from work that I've been doing with in somatic work that I've been doing, the addition of listening to understand to the witnessing role has been very profound for us. So by that I mean in, let's say, the human role, when the beings are talking to the human role, a piece that we as humans can learn in this work possibly is listening to understand. So we are in addition to the other being saying, yes, I hear you, the human task can be kind of upped a little bit to say, I hear you saying this is what we need to do. I hear that humans have, whatever the statement is that the being is making, just to reflect it back in such a way that the being feels heard. So kind of beyond just, I think I understand, or I'm understanding, to say in one's own words back to the being what we heard, and to correct if we've gotten it wrong, to have the being say back to us, no, that's not what I said. I said whatever I did say, and have us as human beings then correct that correction until that knowledge really is shared, and we as human beings have stepped out of our self and into the space of really listening to understand. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. Jackie.
Mine is a technical question. What is the minimal amount of time this workshop, this ritual, excuse me, should be done? And what is an optimal time?
When I offer counsel online, it's 3 hours. I like to really go into it and spend a lot of time with it. I've done it in an hour and a half. I probably wouldn't do it any shorter period than that, unless I'm in a group that's already a small group that's really connected. It's part of a longer series.
I would agree with that. I think you know, it also depends on the number of people. So, you know, to take an hour to do a council with 12 people, that's been a part of an ongoing group. So I do a 5-part series in the Work That Reconnects. This is an hour in that series. You've already made connections, but it's also a small group. You can't do an hour with 40 people. So you do want to take into consideration the number of people, you know, as well, to decide on the time. So you got a sense. We had like 20 people, maybe a little bit fewer. We had 30 minutes for that council that we just did. Totally, you know. So just imagine, you know, doing in an hour. We still would have wanted probably a little more time with that many people.
And similar in person. It just depends on the context. Is it a standalone workshop and people are traveling there, then you have lots of time to really go into it and spend time out on the land and really spend time in mask making and, you know, starting with introductions and, you know, place it maybe in a spiral with gratitude at the very beginning. Belinda.
A question on optimals, and it's to do with numbers of people in the group, but I also suspect it's going to really depend on how much time you have. So they're so they're so connected, but do you have an optimal number?
10, 12, 15. I mean, I like intimate space. I like smaller groups.
I've done it with larger groups, but only, you know, in person. And you know, if you start getting larger groups, even with ample amount of time, then everyone may not be able to speak with each of the sections. And so if you have a group of 40 people, you know, you're doing this at a big gathering or whatever, you know, then you may just want to have to do a little more management as far as you know, how long people speak or just are trading off and realizing that sort of thing. But you know, more than 20, I think, is pretty cumbersome.
Yeah, and also if you have co-facilitator or others supporting, that can really change things too.
We have a question from Ying in the chat. The question says, are there any specific questions that you ask humans, or is it random sharing?
Yes, there are specific questions, prompts, as you experienced in the ritual that you were a part of. And so, you know, and Frieda and I do just a little different variation, and in the book Coming Back to Life, there are some variations as well. So there are 3 distinct prompts.
Robin.
Thank you. If you're doing like a 5-hour, most of the day workshop, are there other things that you would combine with this out on the land?
So many things.
So many.
I mean, really practices to get people really on the land. The mirroring walk is a great practice. I love that practice, and it really can connect us to the land of the particular area where the workshop is being held. So that's a nice sort of earlier on practice. Constance Washburn and Mutima Imani, I've been to a couple of their in-person gatherings, and they've added on after council some improv skits and plays with the beings, combining the beings into different groups and having a lot of fun with that. So that's also a great practice for younger people as well.
Would you think that Joanna Meats's book Coming Back to Life would be the best place to look for? Okay.
Yes, and I was going to say there are some beautiful meditations in Coming Back to Life that, as far as connecting with Gaia and our ecological self, that go nicely with the Council of All Beings as well.
And of course, thinking like a mountain towards the Council of All Beings is another great.
In the group I was in, several of us spoke as trees, with various names of trees. When you have more time, would you encourage some, you just pointed to the fact that, there's more time, that trees could have a conversation with each other and to go deeper as trees?
Yeah, that would be fun.
Or any other beings of the same kind,
Yeah. I haven't offered those sorts of variations online, but in person. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a little more, a little easier in person, I imagine.
Yeah. Getting all the insects
Group
together, birds.
etc. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Then you could also do predator prey and have them have a conversation together. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Jackie.
This is a question from an experience I had, and wanted to know if it's still considered a valuable exercise given the way the world is today, and that's the double circle, where the beings the beings with humans in the future ask, "What did you do to make the difference?" And I'm just feeling like that doesn't work anymore. Your thoughts about that? And then I'll just real quickly.
The double circle has been renamed the 7th generation exercise. It's known by both names, but now it's going by the 7th generation exercise. And I find it still to be one of the more powerful practices in the Work That Reconnects. But because it provides that space of imagination where for a time we're holding the reality that we figured out the great turning, and that there's a future there of the great turning, and to be in that space even for 20 minutes can be transformative. I think it's incredibly powerful.
But Michelle.
Question. I'm just very interested. Has anybody ever represented any from the angelic realm? And would it be acceptable if a being from the angelic realm considered a life form? I guess is my question.
I mean, I've not had that happen, but I've had mythical beings show up and fairies. So it's a different energy than the other beings. I'm not sure how they're how the angels are being impacted, in the same way that the beings here are. But what do you think, Frieda?
Yeah, I haven't had that experience either. Yeah.
But it's an all-inclusive council, so I don't know. Whoever shows up, shows up.
Yeah.
Pat says, I've seen other non-human life forms come, and the ones that didn't connect well were from outer space. Yeah, they're supposed to come to save us. So, I mean, come on.
Thank you for being here with us today. And you are welcome to learn more about the network and everything that we have offered from the webinars and conversation cafe program. You can find out more about us on our website. And if you would like, we would love to welcome you to be a community member of the Work That Reconnects network as well.